Welcome to the Angus Report. I'm Clint Mefford, and we're bringing you the latest cattle news and education. This week, we hear from Randy Blach, CEO of CattleFax. We learn about effective lice management, and we recap the National Junior Angus Association's annual Raised in the Bar conference. This is the Angus Report. The cattle industry has come off its cycle highs from 2014 and 2015, and with that comes price risk, says CattleFax CEO Randy Blach. As we work through the end of cycle, prices will tend to be lower, but Blach says there is still plenty of opportunity for producers to make money.
I think if we look at the various segments of the industry, obviously we've come off our cycle highs in 2014 and 15. As we work through the end of the cycle, what we call the bottom in the cattle cycle, prices tend to continue to work a little bit lower. So we do have price risk over the next 2 to 3 years. It's important that we really focus on our productivity. We need to maintain our productivity because that keeps our cost-price ratios in line in here to where we can keep more people profitable as we work through the end of the cycle. Today, we would have about 1/3 of the cow-calf producers in the United States that aren't making much money. 2/3 are profitable, 1/3 are very profitable yet. So I think it's important that we recognize that just because prices are working a little bit lower, that doesn't mean there isn't opportunity. And I think that's the stage that we really need to be focused on. The other thing I would say is there's a lot of market differentiation going on out here. There's a lot of value difference between cattle in the same pen. We can't take our eye off that opportunity. When we see the closeout data and the carcass data on a pen of cattle and there's $400 to $500 difference between the lowest value one in the pen versus the highest value one in the pen, I look at that as a tremendous opportunity for the U.S. beef producers. So those are things that I would say are real take-home messages. We can't get lost and just because the market is working a little bit lower that we can't make money. I don't believe that. From a foundational standpoint, a few more numbers still growing. Supplies are record large on beef, pork, and poultry. So there's lots of protein out here. We have to have growing export markets. Domestic demand must be strong. Export demand must be strong. In general, we think we're going to have a year that prices are going to be relatively unchanged from where we've been over the course of the last few years. I think as we look at the cost side of the structure, we don't see much change in these grain markets as we look over the course of the next couple of years. We've got adequate grain supplies. We think we're going to have very good grazing conditions and growing conditions for this year's corn crops. So bottom line is probably another year of $3.50 to $4 corn. So not great news for the corn farmer, but he's going to have an opportunity to risk manage that corn production just like he has the last 3 or 4 years. Lots of feed, lots of grass, increasing hay supplies. All that suggests we can support a cow herd that at least as big as it is today, if not a little bit bigger.
With growing cattle numbers and abundant resources, staying competitive in the export market will be key to staying profitable.
I think if you look into 2020, 2021, we would expect that cattle numbers are going to peak by the time we get to 2021. Not a lot bigger than where we are today, but a little bit bigger as we move the cattle through the pipeline. So we'll end up with continued larger protein supplies. We're going to rely more on export markets. This next year we're going to need to export 17 billion pounds of protein. The year after it'll need to be closer to 18 billion pounds of protein. So making sure that we're competitive from a global market standpoint and trade agreements, having market access. We can't be closed out to some of these key markets. Those are really going to be important to U.S. producers regardless of the segment of the industry that they work in. Obviously, we've just gotten a Korean trade agreement done. Exports to Korea were incredibly strong in 2018 as a result of that. Japan, we need to have a bilateral trade agreement in place with Japan. That's one that is very important for us as we go down the road. Another market, we don't have very much access for the beef industry in through the front door in China. We have a very limited market going into China. If we could get that reworked a little bit, it could be tremendous opportunities for U.S. producers to put more high-quality beef in front of the Chinese consumers. And there's a larger growing middle class in China that certainly could support and pay for our high quality product.
Stay tuned, we'll be back with more Angus Report after a break. Welcome back to the Angus Report. The Midwest has been devastated with floods, blizzards, and winds. The bomb cyclone couldn't have come at a worse time of the year, hitting the nation's midsection right in the heart of calving season. Producers in multiple flyover states fought to save their livestock, homes, and livelihoods, risking their lives in whiteout conditions with 100-mile-per-hour winds to wading out into flood waters. From loss of herds and feeds to rerouted haulers and overall reduced productivity, it is clear that it'll take some time for the heartland to rebuild. Visit nefb.org or nebraskacattlemen.org for more information on providing aid to farmers and ranchers affected by the disaster. In response to consumer demands for traceability, Tyson Foods plans to use DNA samples from elite cattle to track steaks, roasts, and even ground beef back to the ranches the animals were raised on. This aimed to provide consumers with a direct source path of their beef from farm to plate is an effort by Tyson to provide total transparency. Tyson's antibiotic and hormone-free brand, Open Prairie, will use a third-party company called Identigen to identify individual animals from small carcass samples. Due to the fragmented nature of the beef supply chain, Kenny Harrison, Vice President of Marketing and Premium Programs at Tyson Fresh Meats, says consumers should view the DNA program as a testament of assurance and extra commitment to quality. A team composed of members from the Agricultural Research Service, the University of Arkansas Fayetteville, and the National Cattlemen's Beef Association has released an analysis clarifying U.S. beef cattle production's resource use and contribution to greenhouse gas emissions. The study, called Environmental Footprints of Beef Cattle Production in the United States, began in 2013 and is meant to establish measures that the beef industry can use to reduce its environmental footprint and improve sustainability. So far, the study has yielded 2 sets of results that were published in January. Among the findings are: beef cattle production accounted for 3.3% of all U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. Fossil energy, such as fuel, used in cattle production accounted for less than 1% of the total consumed nationally. And cattle only consumed 2.6 pounds of grain per pound of beef cut weight. The 2 areas that were revealed to have potential improvement are water use and reactive nitrogen losses. Overall, the study shows that greenhouse gas emissions produced by beef cattle production are not a significant contributor to long-term global warming. Visit ScienceDirect.com to view the full analysis. We check in now on the latest cattle market news with the CattleFax update.
Hello, and welcome to the CattleFax update. I'm Tanner Ahearn. Live cattle futures and fed cattle cash prices have trended higher since last fall. During that same time, live cattle open interest jumped on the bandwagon and recently entered record high territory, and on March 18th, surpassed the 440,000 contract mark for the first time ever. In the past, open interest has provided some insight on where the market is headed. Typically, there is a strong correlation between open interest and the direction of the market during the first half of the calendar year. The seasonal index suggests open interest peaks near the beginning of April and then consolidates for at least 30 days. After the stabilization period, open interest will likely decline, mirroring the expected trend of the market. For open interest to grow to record levels, new buyers and sellers must enter the futures complex. The majority of the new sellers were commercial traders utilizing futures to manage risk, while the new buyers primarily consisted of managed money traders or speculators, along with swap dealers who fall under the category of index traders. In fact, when the managed money long and swap long positions are combined, the total is also record large. The growth in speculative and index long positions was one factor fueling the rally. The reason traders added historic length is because of supportive fundamentals, which have been driven by the weather influence. Eventually, the speculative traders will liquidate from their extreme position, and the selling will likely pressure the live cattle complex. Looking back, this action has typically caused an impulsive short-term drop in futures. However, there have been a couple periods when the liquidation process is more orderly. Because the flow of outside money can have serious implications on the volatility of live cattle futures, and open interest usually moves in parallel with the market, it will be critical to monitor these factors going forward. For the Angus Report and CattleFax, I'm Tanner Ahearn.
To learn more about CattleFax, your leading source for beef industry market information, visit CattleFax.com. Next on the Angus Report, we'll hear from an expert on lice control. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Small but mighty could be the phrase used to describe lice and their impact on cow herds. Mark Campbell, a field technical service manager at Bayer Animal Health, explains the adverse effects associated with lice infestations.
So lice are very important to control because they can cause either we don't maximize the gains on our cattle, or they actually can lose weight because they're, for one thing, lice suck blood. When you suck blood, you have to replace that blood. That takes lots of energy, and that energy could be put towards growth, milk production, whatever else we're trying to get out of our cattle. So, and it's irritating. When they're scratching, itching, rubbing, they're not eating, right? So they're not going to gain as much weight as they should, or maintain body condition. On a cow herd, usually we're just trying to maintain body condition during the winter. And something else about lice, if they're scratching, itching, they're going to be scratching on posts, bunks, fences, whatever. They're going to tear them down eventually. They can cause a lot of damage, and so then you have to replace that or fix it at some point or the other.
Colder months are prime time for lice activity, especially in the northern states.
Lice love cold weather. That's why they reproduce quicker in cold weather, but actually they just go dormant when it's really warm out. So in the summer, we don't see lice. In the winter, early spring, late fall, that's when we start seeing lice because they like cold weather. And that's why it seems like the lice problems, the further north you go, the lice get worse up there just because they like cold weather. They like it cold, and you just don't see them in the summer.
He says that oftentimes treating for the insects at least twice a year is required if producers want effective management. But Bayer Animal Health offers a product that can get the job done in one round of treatment.
The best way to control lice is treat them, sometimes you even need to treat them twice a year, but we have a product at Bayer Animal Health called Cleanup 2. And the good thing about it is a one-time treatment. As long as the cattle are kept, you don't introduce more cattle or they're not mixed with other cattle, it should work with one treatment. Because most products you have to treat them twice because you only kill the adult lice, you don't kill the eggs. You treat them, then a couple of weeks later you need to treat them again because the eggs have hatched out. With Cleanup 2, it's got a product called diflubenzuron in it. That's an IGR, which is very similar to the IGR that you could put mixed with feed or mineral that sterilizes the eggs out in the manure pat. But the IGR actually kills the lice eggs, so you can kill the adults and kill the eggs with one treatment. It is important to shake it well, though, because it is a suspension like penicillin, so you need to shake it well before you apply it.
When determining the best time frame to treat for lice, Campbell gives some fairly lenient options.
The time of the year is best when you run the cattle through the chute, and that's what's hard to say. Some people are preg checking in November, maybe even October. That might be a little bit early to treat for lice, but if that's the only time you can catch them, you need to do that. Really, the later the better. If you could treat your cattle for lice in even December, early January may be a little bit too late, but if you have to run them back through and give them maybe scour shots, you might want to treat them again, because lice they spread quickly and they can cause a lot of damage. One female louse can end up being a million in a matter of about 3 months. And something else in her, it only takes one louse. Most of them are parthenogenic, and that means that they don't need a male to reproduce. So sorry guys, that's kind of a bad deal, but they don't need a male to reproduce.
Up next, we head to Manhattan, Kansas with the National Junior Angus Association for the Raising the Bar Conference. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Angus Report. For more than a decade, the Raising the Bar Conference has built strong leaders and fostered relationship building to prepare Angus juniors for the future. Last week, 62 junior members gathered in the Little Apple for the event.
I'd say I have done like a few conferences through 4-H. I did the planning conference up in Madison for last year's Junior Nationals, and I really enjoyed that. Other than that, I haven't been to any conferences that are as like large and as much of a big deal as this one is, so I'm definitely looking forward to it. I am 14. I'm an 8th grader, so probably one of the youngest here. I'm definitely excited to just tour the college and learn more about that. I'd definitely say I'm looking forward to touring some of the operations and just being able to compare them to our operations, seeing things that we can improve, things that are different, just how things are, you know, based geographically.
I've been to Raising the Bar 4 times at South Dakota State University, Iowa State University, Oklahoma State University, and now here at K-State. I think one of the reasons I keep coming back, honestly, it really helps me get a grip on what colleges I had the opportunity to go to. That's why I love Raising the Bars, because it goes to all these different colleges and that really have great ag programs, and I can compare and contrast them as I look forward to the future. Also, the kids are, a lot of them are repeats, a lot of new kids. It's just really awesome to see, make new friends, see old faces, and things like that. We got to do some fun icebreakers. My team won, pretty awesome. We got some awesome pop sockets.
Unfortunately, my team did not do so hot, but I mean, oh well.
We also got to hear from Dr. Odie from K-State, and he really just set the tone for the entire weekend, talking to us about leadership roles that he's had and giving us advice, and really, like I said, setting the tone for the weekend, I guess setting us up for success here at K-State.
So for me, it's a little extra special because I'm a K-State student. I'm a sophomore right now studying food science, and letting kids in the nation know that K-State is an awesome campus. It's super family oriented and really helps their students out. I just get super excited that I can show other people how awesome this place is. And of course, like, still super excited that it's Raising the Bar and get to show some Angus kids opportunities for higher education.
Well, the thing that drew me here is really my friends and all the involvement with other juniors that I get to have with it. And one of the things I like about it is it really allows you to explore the majors you might be interested in when you go into college, that you kind of know what you're doing with before you get there. I've only really been to the Texas Tech campus, and I'd like to see a few more options before I decide on what college I'd like to go to. The Angus group is a really nice group to have because they really diversify out, and they're really a bunch of good kids that usually have a great work ethic and are great people to be around. And so it's just great to know all of them.
We've been out here at the challenge course here at K-State, and certainly by completing a lot of these courses as a group, we learn how to communicate, how to efficiently provide information for each one of us to accomplish what we're trying to complete as a course. And so we're linking them back to making sure that we're asking for help when we need to for the blind maze, because that's the way that we were only able to get out of the maze, by asking for help. And over at the ropes course, that we all had to think of a way to make it efficiently across the ropes without falling and knocking the other player down. And we also learned how to making sure that we're holding up our end of the bargain by making sure that we're completing what we need to get done to make the group as a whole better, and not slacking off, not completing what we need to get done to make the group look bad. It shows you who's your leaders and who's your followers, and it helps you step out of your comfort zone to take responsibility for things that aren't getting done. And so by completing all of these courses, it helped everybody, develop those qualities to make the team work.
I went to AI school whenever I was 14 and kind of learned the basics about artificial insemination, and so now I AI all of the cattle on our farm. We actually currently have calved out 300 cows that we had AI'd, and that was just connected to this really well, as you get to see where all the semen comes together, where they collect the bulls, how it all comes together into the straws and ships to us. Because when you're AIing cattle on the farm, you just think of it as
you know, we got the semen, and you don't really think of all the processes that go into the steps of getting it to us. So it's been a really good opportunity just to kind of learn about that and kind of see how all of it comes together in full circle. So one of the biggest things throughout the industry and throughout my career as I start to grow and take the further steps of my life is networking with other people. And I think that Raising the Bar has been a great opportunity to kind of tie together networking with people throughout the Angus industry, as well as traveling to farms and getting to meet with other people that aren't necessarily just raising purebred cattle, and then full circling it together with getting the different college experiences such as Kansas State University and helping to develop us into leaders as we tour the colleges and kind of get to know everything about the different agriculture schools across the country. I think that this has probably been my favorite Raising the Bar that I've been to. I love Kansas State, EMAW, and so that's been a really good opportunity to kind of discover further in-depth programs within Kansas State University, as well as I've met a whole lot of new people here this year that I actually hadn't known before now, and so it's just been a good opportunity for me to, again, network with other people and get more in depth to K-State.
What's amazing about this conference compared to the rest is the university atmosphere. Kansas State is filled with history within the agricultural industry, and to be able to take these kids around this campus is an excellent opportunity to not only gain insight into what Kansas State has to offer, but also how they can expand their future and develop themselves personally and professionally. We went to the purebred beef unit that has a bunch of new facilities. We learned some different things about how they operate, some of the new buildings they use, and the equipment that they use on a daily basis and how they operate. We got an exclusive look at the feed mill and the Hal Ross flour mill, which happens to sit right across from the university's football stadium. We even got to go on top of the feed mill's grain elevator and actually look over the city of Manhattan and Kansas State University to see how truly big it is.
Jacqueline, come on.
We also got the opportunity to meet with some unique and distinct Angus breeders. Galen and Lori Fink invited us to their ranch just north of Manhattan. They also set up some unique and interesting learning opportunities for the juniors, including a meat science workshop, a leadership workshop, and then a calving demonstration where juniors got to take a live look at how to calve with calving difficulties, including dystocia and large calves. We also got the opportunity to talk with Chris and Sherry Sankey at their operation, Sankey 6N Ranch in Council Grove, Kansas. With those opportunities, we were able to get great insight on some of the different aspects of the Angus breed and how different producers manage their operations, which was really eye-opening to the juniors that were involved in this conference. And that is what Raising the Bar is all about. That's a wrap.
It's really great to see our juniors raise the bar. Now that's a wrap for this week's Angus Report. Tune in next week for industry-leading news and education, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Angus TV, for more highlights from the association. See you next week.